Welcome in peace. Welcome, welcome. Just getting set up here. And give it a little bit of time to see who comes into the chat room. And for those of you that are in the chat room, please let me know if the music is a little too loud. I am experimenting with allowing the music to go through the desktop. And we'll see what happens. Welcome, Divine L. Welcome. Is that you? I think that's CB. I think that's you, D. Okay. All right, thanks. Okay. So I got the little one off to school, or at least to the bus. Welcome, Goddess Naisha. Welcome, Mari. I'm having a cup of peppermint tea, and this is another handmade mug that I have. A friend of mine was relinquishing items before she was moving, and I got this from her several years ago, primarily because she made it. So yeah, so I have a client coming at 9:30. Today's a pretty busy day, several clients today, and I figure I would go ahead and do a quick live inspiration to help, to sit and have a cup of tea with everyone. Why are all of the chats being highlighted? That's weird. Always, okay, there we go. Because I was highlighting it. It's so interesting how we perceive the world. It's so true. It's not the world, it's us. So I was looking at chat and everything was highlighted. And of course I would think, what is wrong with YouTube? Why is it highlighting everything? In actuality, it was me. I had to readjust the thingamajig. So anyway, let's go ahead and welcome us all into this sacred space. I want to do a little reading from We Moon today on the sun cycles and aspects, just a little bit, and share with you a sunstone. This is a sunstone. Actually, I have a moonstone and a sunstone. So I have the moon and the sun represented here. And this little area, of course, is like my computer screen is right up here. Computer is over to the right. One of my many little setups that I have throughout my house, little altars. So let's go ahead and take a nice deep centering breath and welcome us into this sacred space. Okay, so I'm Tamu and Ngina, Priestess Heart. Very happy to spend this time with you. For some of you, it's in the evening. And for those of us, it's, I guess, sort of like mid-morning. I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning. Okay, so I want to read from the journal planner We Moon, and I purchased this one specifically because it's all about the sun. It has lots of reading and artwork and historical and all sorts of spiritual information about the sun and how the sun was seen as the goddess representation throughout history. We're so used to the fact that the moon is the feminine. Well, in many cultures, the sun is the feminine. The sun is the feminine and the masculine. So, but in modern life, we're so used to thinking of the moon as the feminine. So would like to would like to go ahead and share a little reading with you. Let me put my phone on silence. Sun cycles and aspects. Sunna, the roaming Nordic goddess, lit up our world as she restlessly rode her chariot, searching for home. Ain, Irish goddess of summer, abundance, and sovereignty, galloped as a red horse across the sky. Bast, Egyptian lion goddess of the quickening solar rays, protected her people. It's interesting, Bast. Now, I'm not sure about that because I've always and only seen Bast represented as a cat, like a black cat, or like a panther or a jaguar, but a black cat, and Sekhmet being a lion goddess. So I'm thinking that that might have been a little info typo. I'm not sure, but that's just my understanding. So, lion goddess of the quickening solar rays, protected her people. Amaterasu, rising sun still illuminates the Japanese flag. Around the world, the sun, reflected through the divine feminine, brings life, light, abundance, vitality, and infuses personal sovereignty. So if you're looking to really assert your sovereignty as an individual, your feminine sovereignty, definitely connect with the solar goddess like Sekhmet. And she is one of my favorites that I'm working on, connecting with the energy of Sekhmet. The sun organizes our solar system and marks our days. All planets, let me just move that out of the way, sorry. All planets in our charts are illuminated only through their relationship to the sun. Sun's energy fluctuates. It burns at different levels of intensity and turns the volume up or down on events here on Earth. Solar activity cycles peak on the average about 11 years, but the cycle is unpredictable and can be 9 to 14 years apart and of greater or lesser intensity. We can't draw up tables ahead of time like all other planetary patterns, but we can find out what the sun is doing today and was doing the day we were born. You can look up that information at www.spaceweather.com. And that just reminds me, I also, I have an app on my phone. Let me see if it's this phone. I have an app. Hold on one second. Let me get my other one. Just like there are moon apps so that you can keep up with the rising, as they say, the rising and the setting of the moon, there are also solar apps. And I have one here, I think. Am I going to be able to find it? Of course, you can always find stuff when you don't need it. All right. Let's see. I know I have a solar app on here. Here it is. I have a solar app right here. This is an Android phone. It's called Sun Surveyor, and also Loonscape. Loonscape was Moon Phase Deluxe and then changed its name to Moonscape. So let's see. So this is what the interface on the solar app looks like. Today's February 22nd is 8:15. Day length 10 hours and 58 minutes. So I guess that's like, you know, the amount of sunlight. And then you have the blue hour, which I have no idea what that means, but blue hour, what time sunrise is, the golden hour, solar noon, so that's giving you the exact noon, sunset, all of that. And this one also, what's nice about this solar app, that it does give you the moon as well, what the moon phase is. And I think this app was maybe about $6. And lets you know what's going on with the Milky Way. And I think that's about it. Oh, the sun year and the sun day, and then the moon year and the moon phases. So what phase? Last quarter moon starts on Tuesday the 26th at 6:28 a.m. And then you have moon day. So there you go. So if you're looking for an all-inclusive one app, check out Sun Surveyor, and that is on Android operating system. Okay. It's helpful to know what the sun is doing because her cycles synchronize with fluctuations here on Earth. Her pattern affects tree growth, crops, health cycles, and adjusts the volume on earthly events. You know, we're so used to thinking how the moon affects our bodies, affects the earth, affects the tide. It's interesting to really think about what the sun does as well. And it's not really something that I've ever thought about other than when I was a teenager, because I had really bad acne. I used to lay out in the sun so I could try to get as dark as I could to cover up any hyperpigmentation that went on from acne scarring. So that was my extent of the sun, you know, getting out and getting a deep, dark, tropical suntan. Our politics heat up when the sun flares and storms. We're hungry for new answers. Earthlings become more politically volatile, so a spark can light a bonfire. Solar activity peaked around the American, French, and Russian revolutions, the late 1960s and in 2001. So that's interesting. I wonder which affected which. Did the revolutions affect the sun? Or probably more likely that the sun flares and the sun storms affected the consciousness of us down here on Earth and caused those revolutions. Anyone have any thoughts or ideas about that? Go ahead and please share that in the chat room. That would be interesting. Social revolutions tend to switch directions with each new cycle, oscillating between conservative and progressive peaks. Okay, let's see. President Obama came in as the sun grew active, promising a wave of change, which never quite materialized, as the sun went deeply quiet right after his election. The recent conservative 2013 sunspot maximum was, with occasional spikes, the smallest in 100 years. The sun is predicted to quiet down through 2019, then build again towards a progressive solar maximum around 2022 and 2025. In the years when the sun is quiet, it's hard to light a match and spark major political or cultural change. The culture tends to work with the answers in place, whether we like it or not. But we can network, produce art that brings questions, educate, and organize. It's time to push our spiritual lives, develop philosophy, and weave connections, lobby for legal change, change hearts, and get good politicians in office, and educate and have a life, get the building blocks in place to activate when the sun blares. So that's interesting. And what was coming to my mind when I was reading that, when you think about how the sun affects us and also how the moon affects us, where does our free will come into play? How much of what we do is 100% affected by our own personal conscious choice? And how much of it is not so much that we're puppets, but we're being directed by forces unseen? And when you think about it, how does the sun affect the hormones in our body? And how does the moon affect the hormones in our body? If we're not getting enough sun, and this is what's just coming into me, if we're not getting enough sun, the pituitary gland isn't going to be stimulated. I believe the pituitary gland that regulates the melatonin in the body? I'm thinking. This is just coming to me off the top of my head, so I'm not actually sure how accurate I am, but I think that's what happens. So if we don't get adequate amounts of sunlight, how are we therefore going to be able to get proper sleep patterns? And if we're replacing the sunlight with, right, and whether it comes from the thyroid or not, it's still where, the sun or the moon affects the release of hormones in our body. If you just exist in a building where you're constantly bombarded with artificial light and you're not getting the natural light that comes from the sun and all of its spectrums, you have blue wavelength, red, all the different wavelengths of the sun affects our body. And from the sun, we get UV light. And without the UV light, we are not going to have the cholesterol in our skin convert into vitamin D. So not only is the sun important for growth, the land, but it also affects the production of needed vitamins and probably hormones in our body as well. Let me put my lights, And so if we're not getting proper sunlight, we can actually damage our eyes. In my apartment, my living room has extremely diffused sunlight. And I notice if I spend too much time indoors, my eyesight starts to kind of really go down. And then if I'm outside and getting enough proper sunlight, it's greatly enhanced. And let's see, what does D says? D looked it up, alternative names for melatonin. Melatonin is produced by various tissues in the body. The major source of the pineal gland. The melatonin is produced naturally from amino acids, tryptophan, by the pineal gland at nighttime. Right, and we have to have a certain amount of light where it's then turned off, because if we're when the sun sets and if we have too much artificial light, melatonin is not going to be produced properly. It's still affected by the amount of light that is being let in. So it's very interesting. So anyway, I just say all of this to encourage you guys to make sure that you get proper sunlight, because it's very important, and especially for the production of vitamin D. And sure, we can go pop pills and buy our vitamin D3 pills, but it doesn't take the place of proper sunlight. So let's look at the sunstone. Can you guys see that? So here's an image, and this is from the Crystal Bible, a definitive guide to crystals. I think there's like a Crystal Bible 2 and 3. So this is a polished sunstone here. It's almost like a blush color. So colors come in yellow, orange, and brown for the sunstone. Appearance: clear, transparent, or opaque crystal with iridescent reflections, often small and tumbled. Rarity: easily obtained from specialist shops. Sources: Canada, United States, Norway, Greece, and India. Sunstone is a joyful, light-inspiring stone. It instills joie de vivre and good nature and heightens intuition. If life has lost its sweetness, sunstone will restore it and help you to nurture yourself, clearing all the chakras and bringing in light and energy. The sun allows the real self to shine through happily. Traditionally, it is linked to benevolent gods and to luck and good fortune. It is an alchemical stone that brings about profound connection to light and the regenerative power of the sun during meditation and everyday life. And I can really feel a very subtle vibration of this stone in my hand. Sunstone is extremely useful in removing hooks from other people, whether located in the chakra or the aura. These hooks can be at the mental and emotional level and may come from possessive parents, children, or lovers. So if you've removed yourself from, say, an abusive relationship or just any relationship and you want to work on cutting the ties with the person and cutting cords, also get yourself, oh, there you go, that's a good, get yourself some sunstone. Sunstone lovingly returns the contact to the other person and is extremely beneficial for tie cutting. Keep sunstone with you at all times. If you have difficulty saying no and continually make sacrifices for others, removing codependency, it facilitates self-empowerment, independence, and vitality. Sunstone stimulates self-healing powers, regulates the autonomic nervous system. Now, I don't know about that, but this is what it says, and harmonizes all the organs. It treats chronic sore throats, relieves stomach ulcers, exceptionally good for seasonal affectiveness disorders. Good for cartilage, rheumatism, general aches. And it says, place, wear, or hold as appropriate. Sunstone is particularly beneficial when used in the sun. So there you go. Here's the sunstone. Lovely, 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 lovely. So do any of you guys have a favorite crystal? If you've been watching this channel long enough, you probably could figure out what my favorite crystal is. All of them. No, seriously. Labradorite, and there's another one back there. Lapis. Labradorite and lapis, I would probably say, are my top two favorite stones. Rose quartz, carnelian. So I would probably say all of them. Okay, so let me check on the time. All right, I got about 15, 20 more minutes. So today's hexagram is hexagram number 38. Hexagram number 38, and let's put that there. Hexagram number 38. Opposition. Opposite viewpoints, personal differences, a communication gap, disharmony, misunderstanding, estrangement. Oh my gosh, this sounds a little bit depressive. Mari likes turquoise, or she always ends up receiving turquoise. And Goddess Naisha, she likes black obsidian. Let's put that there. So, opposition, estrangement, polarizing is how Benabel Wynn translates this particular one. And this is my carnelian pie stone. And another small lapis that I usually carry with me. And I absolutely love turquoise. I had 3 of these turquoise stones gifted to me. They're from Arizona or New Mexico, one of those places. What I find with turquoise nowadays is extremely difficult to know whether or not the turquoise you have is authentic. The more recent turquoise, because a lot of it is dyed howlite. All right, so hexagram number 38, estrangement, opposition, polarizing. We have fire over lake. Fire over lake. Fire, radiance and eminence, innovation and cultivation, giving light, illumination, perspicacity, clarity, rapid movement, the sun, clinging, dependent, intellect, and logic. And when you look at the fire, remember we have a masculine line and a masculine on top and the feminine line right in the middle. Life aspect, ambition, honor, fame, reputation. Medically is related to the small intestine, cardiovascular system, autoimmune, metabolic. It's the heart chakra. The animal is the phoenix or the pheasant. The archetype, the general or the minister. Is this number 38? Yeah. The immortal is Lu Dong Bin, patron of scholars, literati, healers, high magic. And then we have lake. There's more on that lake. Opal. Oh my gosh, yes, Mari. Opal, and Australian opal and Ethiopian opal. So absolutely beautiful. The opal is my birthstone. Absolutely love opal. So let's see, where is lake? Lake, a fertile womb, receptivity for further growth, nourishment, receiving, pleasure, tranquility, devotion, joy, satisfaction, could be stagnation, openness, intuition, and vision. So there's some more information on lake, on the energy, the movement of lake. Life aspect, children, fertility, nurturing. Medically related to the mouth, oral cavity, digestive, reproductive system, chronic pain or disease, nutrition, sexuality. The chakra is the 3rd chakra. And what was fire? Fire was the heart and third eye chakra. I didn't mean to say 3rd chakra, I meant 3rd eye. Animal, sheep or tiger. The archetype is the diviner. The immortal is Zhang Li Quan, patron of warriors, ceremonial magicians, and alchemists. And we're going to look at Professor Hong's direct literal translation. He calls this hexagram abandoned, favorable in small things. So starting with the lake Bagua, down here at the bottom, the lake Bagua, the double masculine line with the yin on top. We start from the very bottom line and work our way up the hexagram. Regret disappears. Do not chase after the lost horse. It will return on its own accord. Seeing an evil person bodes no ill. Meeting the host in the alley, no trouble. The cart pulled from behind, the ox chafing, the man branded and benosed. Oh, branded and benosed. Oh my gosh. Benosed means exactly what it says, having their nose removed. Oh, he must have done something. So I think that used to be a punishment centuries ago. I know in India, women were benosed for having been accused of committing adultery. And in India, that's where rhinoplasty originated. Someone wanted to help women who had their nose removed, and so they took skin from another part of the body and reconstructed their nose. That's a little bit of history. I learned that a while back. The abandoned waif met a great man. Both became prisoners, safe in peril. Regret disappears. They are munching meat in the ancestral temple. Go. Who could blame you? The abandoned waif saw a pig in the mud and a cart full of demons. He arched his bow at first, but finally put it down. They are not robbers, only wife grabbers. Going would be favorable if it rains. So wife grabber, it says see hexagram 3, but if I remember correctly, when there would be a wedding ceremony, I think it's the groom's party that goes to the wife, the bride to be home, and does like a fake kidnap, or maybe it is a kidnap, I don't know, and grabs the girl that the guy is supposed to marry to bring her to the wedding ceremony. So there you have it. There you have it. Okay, so we're going to look at Beneville Wynn's translation, interpretive translation of hexagram number 38. One pushes for progressive movement and one holds back. Two seek the same objective, but they go in separate directions. You are to stand apart from the rest and know why you stand so firm. While the greater endeavor at hand is being met with opposition, take the time to settle minor, tangential issues. You feel misunderstood, yet your individuality is critical to the matter at hand. The estrangement is necessary. Do not chase after what will return on its own. You will be making the journey in the rain. You face inclement weather through your endeavor. Do not chase after what will return on its own. And if it's not going to return, what's the point of chasing it anyway? That's my own little addendum to that one. And now we will take a look at what Brother Brian Brown Walker, his interpretation, and I always enjoy his interpretation. And he has this one, 38, Kiui, opposition. Misunderstanding truth ceases. Misunderstanding truth creates opposition. I thought that word says ceases, and when I said ceases, wait a minute, how does that cease opposition? Maybe you misread the word. There are many occasions in life which tempt us into negative thoughts, anxiety about the future, mistrust of another person, bodily pain, fear of failure, or even success. All of these tempt us into mistrusting life and believing that life is against us. When we fall into this trap, we are in opposition to the workings of the creative. And remember, in his translation, or even in Wynn's translation, creative, source of life, universe, God, what have you, however you want to define it, is he has it creative with a capital C. When we fall into this trap, we are in opposition to the workings of the creative, and success becomes impossible. The simple truth is that every moment in every person's life contains the teaching he or she most needs at that time. It is not always immediately apparent why a thing is happening, because the sage is often inclined to work in a roundabout fashion. The higher self, the oversoul, that part of you that is most wise and, not separate. Nonetheless, whatever is happening now is what must happen. Our only task is to trust the process and allow the lesson to seep in. This hexagram comes as its signal that you are resisting life and preventing your own progress. Nonetheless, success is still possible, for every opposition carries within it the seeds of agreement. Cease resisting yourself, others, life, the sage. Let go of dark thoughts and aggressive actions. By returning to acceptance, neutrality, and devotion to the way of the sage, you dissolve the opposition within yourself and open the way for understanding and good fortune to arrive. We currently live in a culture of resistance. We're resisting this, we're resisting that. We have an enemy outside of ourselves that we're being called to resist. But how many of us take the time, instead of expelling our energies to resist what is external to ourselves, rather than building ourselves and creating a new paradigm that will, if we put energy towards creating, getting together and creating a structure, a paradigm, a community, or whatever, that will attract what it is we desire. And then would naturally, whatever it is we think that we have to resist, that would naturally dissolve on its own, because we've put our energy into creating something that is beautiful and positive and beneficial for the people. That's just my idea when I see people saying resist, resist, be in resistance. To me, that's a waste of energy. That's a use of energy in a direction that's not going, it's going to constantly cause opposition. But if you take that energy and start creating and designing and willing that change you wish to see, how about that? Instead of us forcing others to change, we just start creating that change. That's what I think when I walk up and down the street, and sometimes I see bumper stickers in people's cars that say resist, resistance, or I actually see banners hanging on people's houses, resistance. I'm like, okay. Anyway, that's just, I'm sure there's people who'll disagree with me, but that's just my take on it. Welcome, Pavel. Welcome. All right. Last but not least, as I know Goddess Naisha likes, Goddess Naisha likes the wisdom keepers. So let's check out Perseverance, number 38. And let's see all of the symbolism. See the symbolism on the face. Number 38. And then I'm going to have to go and eat. I started this morning on a completely empty stomach. I juiced celery. So I had about 6 to 8 ounces of celery juice. And then I had a cup of matcha, powdered matcha green tea. And that really gets the digestive tract flowing. And now I'm like, my belly is saying, feed me, I'm so hungry. Okay. Over time, through perseverance, love, and trust, you will eventually attain victory and experience your own divinity. That's the message of number 38, perseverance. The gift is perseverance. Shadow, struggle. To me, that's what resistance is struggling. Siddhi, honor. My older brother died when I was just a child. My mother went into a deep depression. As a boy of action, I fought with all of my might to pull her out of her grief, but her pain consumed her until she ended her own life. Her act of utter defeat was unthinkable in our land. I heard people talking, and it made me so angry. My whole body shook. Not knowing what to do with the overwhelming tension I felt, I started fighting wherever and whenever I could feel my impact. I love the feeling of exerting my body, fighting and winning. Gave me a sense of purpose and power. But sometimes I took my aggression out on helpless animals and my younger siblings. I became addicted to the struggle and rarely knew when to stop. As I grew older, I became a powerful warrior with a gift for inspiring others to act. But my personal feelings often clouded my judgment. Once, I led a whole army to war because someone from another village insulted my mother's honor. Many people were injured, even killed, at my insistence. Just before we launched another attack, a young boy came from the warring village, the same age as my older brother when he died, ran up to me and flung his arms around my waist out of pure desperation. He pleaded with me to end the feud, crying, "Why are we fighting? I don't understand." As his question penetrated my deaf ears and hardened heart, I woke up. I started breathing again. I hadn't even realized just how tight my chest had been for years. He was right. I knew in that moment that if my mother were alive, she would never want me to kill innocent people to defend her honor. There was already more than enough suffering and struggle in our village, and there I was, her son, fighting for everything that didn't matter. I wasn't honoring anyone. That's when I realized that deep down, I'd come to believe that if I had nothing to fight, I'd disappear, just like my mother did, just like my brother. Everything changed after that. I took that sweet boy under my wings, and now we only fight for causes that are worth fighting for, those that are for the good of all people and the earth. So there is the message of perseverance. And with that, I just want to inspire, encourage all of us to aspire to persevere, not through resistance, but persevere through personal cultivation, through doing our best to love deeply, to create, to manifest in this world what we know and believe our mission is, to create, to do our part, to do our piece of the puzzle, to sit in meditation, to visit our lakes, our oceans, our mountains, our own backyard, to do what we need to do to help create a more harmonious way of being on this earth. It will not be done through resistance. I personally believe it will only be done through positive and right action, creating those spaces where we can heal, creating those spaces where we can feed each other and nurture each other. So, anywho, well, I'm gonna have to get going. My stomach is like, whoa, feed me, Tamu, feed me. And I'm like, okay, just quiet down. Thank you, all of you guys, for joining us today. Thank you, Pavel, Divine L, D, Mari, Goddess Naisha. And did I miss anyone? I don't think so. And thank you to all of those who will watch in the replay. Yes, turquoise, lapis, and yellow jasper. These three came to me in a dream about 2007. I think it was like January, February. I think it was either right before or right after my rededication as a priestess of the divine feminine. Thank you. Okay, so we started with the bow. Let's end with the chime. I'm Tamu and Ngina, Priestess Heart. Thank you, beloveds, for being here, for sharing your energy. Let's take a moment to remember our ancestors and all those who have come before us. I wish you peace and great bliss. Peace and great bliss. Thank you. Until next time, keep going, keep going. And let's make our lives beautiful and this world beautiful. Let's remember the sunlight. Where's my sunstone? Let's remember to honor the energy of the sun as well as the energy of the moon. Peace and great bliss.